Hi guys! Today I want to talk to you about some of the equipment that I would dearly love for food preparation, dream-wise or otherwise, and why. So we're going to start slow, and I'm going to start with cooking equipment, but we're going to get right down to brass tacks first off. I want to have an outdoor kitchen. I want to build my skills up with cooking over fire, because at the end of the day, gas is ridiculous prices, electric is ridiculous prices, and if I can save money on preparing food for my family, then I'm going to do that. But it takes practice. Now, let's be honest, there are dream kitchens, outdoor kitchens, and there are dream outdoor kitchens. And one thing that I have loved and wanted for forever has been what has been coined as the Playset BBQ Pit. And here it is, right here. See, it's the dream, okay? It is the dream. But let's be entirely honest and let's be a little bit realistic here. That's probably a fifth of the size of my garden, which means, number one, it's not safe to use in my garden. It'd be always far too close to a building or a fence or the greenhouse or any of that. So it's not something that's realistic unless, things went completely sideways and we had to take off somewhere, and then it could be really useful. So let's be a little bit real, and this is what I would really like as far as being able to practice and use in my garden as it is right now, and that's a shallow bowled fire pit. Now, not only is it useful for learning how to use your cast iron and other pots and pans on, but you're barbecuing and all of that kind of thing. But it's also really good to learn how to water bath and preserve food on as well. Because water bathing doesn't need electric and gas. You can do it over a fire pit. And that is a game changer. Especially at a time when many of us are looking towards buying up or growing our own food. So growing your own food or buying really cheap deals on food, on fresh produce, and wanting to water bath can it or whatever to preserve it, because we can't afford to run big freezers. We don't have a lot of space in this country. So being able to do things like water bath canning without having to put the excess cost of gas and electric on top, or even if there was an issue with actually having gas and electric, period, you can still preserve food if you're in a situation where you're basically camping. It's a huge game changer and something and a skill that people need to know. You need to practice, and a small fire pit like that is actually going to do the job beautifully well. So next on my list is another off-grid way of cooking, and it is the tabletop charcoal stove right here. Now, these are really popular in places like Asia, where they can just pop them up on the table and place a hot pot on them, etc. And it's a lot of really great communal mealtime. But they also use them for barbecuing. They also use them for cooking things like stews and stocks, etc., for the bases of soups that need a long time cooking, because they take far less fuel to run because you're using charcoal in them, and they keep the heat really, really well. Now, if you're stuck in a situation, for example, that you are indoors or only have a very small sort of deck area outside, or balcony or whatever you want to call it, these are perfect for cooking on. Absolutely perfect. Obviously you don't want to have it indoors if you've got smoke alarms right on your ceiling, over your table or whatever, because they do give off a fair amount of smoke, let's be honest. But in a push, if you have nothing else, at least you have this one piece of equipment. Now, I really do love these, and I think it would be a valued piece of equipment when it came to my outdoor kitchen area, or as something that I could use indoors if I had to. Now, obviously, if I'm to have something like a little charcoal stove, I need the pots to cook with it. Now, they are very specific types of pots. You can use cast iron on it, that's not a problem. But there are little hot pots and dishes that are used worldwide. Different shapes, forms, etc. that can be used. They even come in a stackable form. I mean, like, seriously, they stack so you can do an entire meal on this one tiny little stove, because they're about that round. That's it. Now, I'm not very good at foreign languages and I'm probably going to butcher some of these names, but I just wanted to give you an example of different pots that could go on this clay pot cooker from around the world. You've got the African podgy. I call it podgy. It's probably something else, but it looks like a little witch's cauldron. It's so cute, and you could probably actually just put it on the fire pit, but it would work on the charcoal stove as well. You've got the tagine from Morocco. Everyone knows what that looks like. It's the flat base with the big conical top. You've got the hot pots from Asia. All across Asia has different shaped ones. They're wide top ones that look more ball-like. You've got flat ones like for Japan and places like that. Then you've got the sigri or the handi from India and that part of the world as well. So, and if you don't want any of those, you've got your own cookware that you can use on it. You want to make sure though that all of what you're using is safe to use with a naked flame, and if it is hand thrown pottery, you want to make sure that it's actually wet before you put it on there. You don't want to put it on dry. Don't do that. You could end up in a bad situation, unless it's glaze, which it probably won't be on the bottom. But, just do your research and practice. Practice. All of these things take practice. So about a month ago, I took possession of a piece of equipment I've wanted for several years. That is a tabletop stone mill, and can I just say, I'm still so enthralled with it that I am sitting there looking at it on a daily basis, and when I walk past it, I'm like, I'm going to use you soon. I promise I am going to be using you soon, and I will be. I just need to get through the next few weeks so that I can be well enough to do so. But to go hand in hand with that piece of equipment, because I'm now purchasing full grains, not flour, because I'm going to be obviously making my own flour, I was introduced to a new piece of equipment that actually rolls your grains. Now, I didn't think this was actually possible. I didn't think it was a thing. It is, I want to get this right. Now, I'm not in any way, shape or form sponsored by them or by anyone that I'm showing any stuff from or affiliated to any of them either. But it's an oat flaker and it's a flick flock. Flick flock. I mean, I even love the name. I mean, how can you not love the name? Okay. So, but here it is. Now, this little hand tool right here rolls your oats for you. It rolls them for you, and all you do is turn the little handle. That's it. You put your oats in the top and it comes out. You roll your little handle and out they come, ready for your porridge, your muesli, baking, whatever you want rolled oats for. so you're not having to have all different types of oats in your cupboards. You can just buy the grains and cover everything. And obviously it works for other grains as well. I haven't had a chance to use it yet because obviously I don't have one, so I can't do a video on that because I haven't got one yet. I will. It's on my list, obviously, because that's what we're here about, right? Is my list. But it is a beautiful little piece of equipment, so very handy, and something that would make life very, very simple. Now, this next piece of equipment is something that I've really thought about. It's a Korean rice bucket. Now, what it does is it works in conjunction with a wok over an open flame to steam cook a large quantity of rice. Now, I have a rice cooker. Well, I have a multi-cooker that I use as a rice cooker. I've had a rice cooker in the past. In fact, I've had several, all of different shapes and sizes. I just use my multi-cooker now. It just makes life so much simpler, and I have one tool for that. However, if in a situation where I wasn't able to use that, I would have this that I could use to make rice. Now, you might turn around and go, well, that's a lot of rice to use in one hit. Yes, it is. But if you're feeding quite a few people, you're going to need something that's going to be able to cook that rice so that it doesn't burn on the bottom. And there is actually no chance of this burning. Even if the wok or the pot runs out of water that you're cooking on, it doesn't, because the rice has no connection to the bottom of the pot, nor does the bucket, by the way. It doesn't. It sits on a rack. Then there should be no reason for it to burn. So you just have to come in and add more water. It might take a bit longer, but it's not a big deal. The other thing about it is this: if you're in a situation where you're off grid and you need to make alcohol for a serious situation and you don't have things like distillers and stuff like that, this will make enough rice to create rice wine within less than a week. So having great glutinous rice available and you can use leftover bread yeast. You don't have to use wine yeast. You can just use bread yeast if that's what you have. And it will create a really potent alcohol, rice wine alcohol, within several days. Now, it won't be 100% alcohol, obviously, but it will be pretty potent and will be enough to sterilize certain situations. So if you've got wounds and stuff, because people cut themselves, kids fall over, let's be honest. But if you don't have, a first aid kit on hand or whatever, at least this is a backup that you can look at. And that's why I want it, because it is not only a food utensil and equipment, but it's also kind of goes over into medical. Now, this next one is also something that has been on my list for several years, and I'm almost at a point where I'm ready to get one. I'm almost ready to get one, but I want the 20-litre one, and I'll tell you for why. Okay, what we're looking at here is a fruit press. Now, to me, if I'm going to put the effort into pressing fruit for juice, for whether it's just juice or if it's for making alcohol of some description, etc., I want to get as much bang for my buck as possible. I don't want to be sitting there doing 2 or 3 batches when I can be doing 1, because you need to work smarter, not harder. And that's one thing that I work to do. So yes, some of my equipment is a bit bigger than Tanny and mine's everyday needs, but it's something that I can do one batch and it does us a year, maybe 2 years. And that's worth it to me, you know, because it's one less thing that I have to think about later on, and it makes the process go that much quicker. So yeah, this is a big one that's on my list, and it's almost in my, well, yeah, it's in my top 5 at the moment, so it's made its way up the list. I'm pretty sure that many of you watching this will know about the little tabletop meat mincer that you can get, that grandma had, that we probably have in our kitchens, right? Well, did you know that there are other ones of those for different jobs? I also not only have the meat one, but I also have a grain one. But did you know that there's a tomato press or tomato extruder, whatever you want to call it? Well, that's the next thing on my list right here, is the tomato press. This attaches to your table, juice goes out one side, solids to the next, and you can have your tomato day, sauce making day, simple and easy without having the electrics. It also means that you can get the kids involved if you want, and get them doing all the turning and twisty turning stuff, you know, because they love doing stuff like that. Trust me, they do. I mean, you know, my kids love doing stuff like that. If it had anything to do with handles and buttons and stuff like that, they were all over it, you know, especially if things happened because they were doing that, you know. My grandchildren are very similar. They're quite happy to go and turn things and push things as long as something happens, and it's exciting for them and it gets them involved, you know. To us, tomato day should be a day where the family gets involved, because it should be a big day of preparation. It's like garlic day for me, you know. It's like the day that you process an animal, you know. That's something that takes a day, maybe a week to finish off doing. The same with tomato day. It's one of those days during the year where you've got all your harvest in and you need to start making the sauce, you know, to get it up on the pantry shelves. So, you know, this is a great little tool for that, and it doesn't cost anything to run, which is awesome. We like when it costs nothing to run anything. Now, I know this is a long one, guys, but hang in there. Normally we've got a live at this time, and you stick around for an hour, hour and a half, and hopefully this won't run for much more than half an hour, but we're coming down to the last 5 pieces of hand equipment that are on my personal wish list. Now, the next item on my list is actually a replacement item for a set that I used to own probably 20 years ago, when the kids were little and we lived on a property and we processed our own animals. I had a full range butcher's equipment, you know, case with all of the knives and all of the things, and that is what I want to replace. Although I don't eat a lot of meat myself, I am not unaware that Tanny is a carnivore. I am not unaware that it is a lot cheaper to buy half a pig and butcher it yourself than it is to buy it fully butchered. I am fully aware that if we were in a situation where we had to raise our own animals, then because I am the one with the license, and I am licensed, I have a butcher's license, I have my abattoir license, so, you know, I have all of that kind of stuff. I would be the one doing the work. I'm not unaware of this, the irony. You know, I'm not the one who eats a lot of meat, yet I'd be the one who'd be processing it or teaching others to do so. But to do that, you need to have the equipment. Now, even if you're not in a situation where you're going to be raising your own animals, but you go hunting, if you don't know how to butcher the animal properly, you're going to waste a lot of that product. And in any kind of situation, to be honest, any kind of wastage when it comes to taking the life of another creature, to me, is just not acceptable. It's not acceptable at all. So if, and this is a conversation I want to have another time, okay? So I'm not going to get deep dive into this, but to be able to learn straight off, okay, you need to have the right equipment to do so. Now, it's all very well go and get yourself a cheap set of butcher's tools, and you can do that, and they work and what have you, but A, they won't last as long, and B, they're more liable to break because you've got a lot of big bones and stuff like that. So putting as much money as you can, and I have always said this, as when it comes down to knives and sharp implements for the kitchen, you buy the best you can possibly get. And if that means you have to save for 12 months, 2 years, whatever, then you save that money to get those. Or you put them on your Christmas list. And if you put them on your Christmas list and tell all of your family, and all of your family pitches in a little bit of money towards it, and you just get that one item, can I just say, I would be more excited about that than another Dove gift set. I'm just saying. Not that I don't appreciate the Dove's gift sets. It's just I've still got some from we've got enough that we're putting them up in storage containers for emergency purposes. Yeah, both Tanya and I have had lots of them over the years, and they're great, don't get me wrong, but we have enough now to literally open a shop at this point. And so we're just putting them up into the loft for emergency purposes. So yeah, if you do want something like this, it's always a good idea to get more than just one member of the family involved, unless that person happens to be Elon Musk, and then you just make the biggest list you possibly can and put all of the things that you are asking for on it. I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do not. Just because someone has money does not mean they have to spend it on you. You're not that entitled. Just save your pennies and get the best possible butcher's kit you can. On the subject of butchering and, meat processing, etc., how about a sausage stuffer? I know, stop with the jokes. I know, okay, we're going to talk about stuffing your sausages. I know, it is. Just get it out of your system now. Go on, get it out of your system. I know you want to. It's all good. Most sausage stuffers have been electrical machines or horizontal. Now, horizontal is fine if you have that amount of bench space to use, but it can also be really awkward if you're using it on your own. Very awkward if you're using it on your own. It's not a simple task to do. However, a new one has come out that is a vertical sausage stuffer. Oh, man. And it takes up very little room, and it's very easy to use if you're on your own and having to do it yourself, or have a little person to help you, because they can do the cranking while you're holding on to the sausage and all of that kind of stuff, right? So it's a great piece of equipment, and if you're processing a whole animal and you have a lot of different sausage meats, etc., or a lot of sausage meat that you need to deal with, having a big one of these is a really big asset. Now, I do have a sausage stuffer attachment to go on my tabletop meat grinder, which is great for the individual bits and pieces and what have you. But if you're having to preserve your meat and to air dry it and to make salamis and other wind-dried sausages and smoked sausages and things like that, so that they're going to last you the winter. This is going to be absolutely one of the most important pieces of equipment that you can have. Now, the one that I want holds up to 8 kilos, and I know that sounds a lot, but when you're looking at the size of a full-grown pig or a full-grown cow, I have been known to make around 50 kilos of sausage meat in a day. That's 5 batches. Around 5 batches on the biggest one of these that you can get. Now, even if you're only using it twice a year, when you do like the processing, it's still going to pay for itself very, very quickly. So it is one that you can use on your own. It's one that you can use with somebody else. You don't have to have lots and lots of extra hands if you don't have them available to you, but it is useful enough and easy enough that the crankshaft on it can be used by a small child. So they get to be involved as well and see where their food is coming from. Okay? This stuff's really important to have, and it's a really good, useful tool as well. So yeah, it's made my wish list because I ain't doing that stuff by hand. I've done it by hand. I've had a bowl of mincemeat and sausage meat and the casings and a wooden spoon, and I've done it that way. And 3 hours later, I kid you not, I was broken. I'm not doing that again. I'm going to work smarter, not harder, thank you very much. And I'm getting myself a sausage stuffer. And a really, really big one. So the next thing on my list, you may wonder about. Now, during lockdown, I bought a whole heap of fruit trees that I found on offer at our local supermarket. Because obviously people weren't buying stuff because, you know, they weren't going out. So I bought a whole heap of fruit trees, including in those fruit trees was an olive. And last year it started to fruit. But the other thing is that, I mean, it'll be a while before I'm going to get enough olives to do much with. I got like half a dozen of this thing. But that's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter, right? But if you do have a situation where you are going to use nuts or seeds or olives or other actual ingredients to make your own oil, you're going to need one of these. Now, this is a cold press hand oil machine for small amounts of oil. Okay, it doesn't do liters and liters and liters. This does a small amount at a time. Most of us will only have enough ingredients to do a small amount at a time. And for the most part, that will be sufficient. Okay? So the oil comes out, and you put your things in the top, whether this one in particular does nuts, seeds and olives, it does all of those. So you can put the stuff in the top, you turn your little handly thing, the oil comes out one way, the solids come out the other, and the oil is the part of the juice that floats to the top. It's that simple. It's that simple. You know, even kids can figure it out. But it's going to be a really useful piece of equipment. And even if you only use it once or twice a year, that's once or twice a year where you've probably saved yourself quite a lot of money. Let's be honest. Because even vegetable oils at the moment, so even if you use it in sunflower season, once you've harvested all your sunflower heads, You know, you got yourself a whole heap of cold pressed sunflower oil. You know, that stuff at the moment to buy is ridiculous prices. Absolutely ridiculous prices. We're looking at oil at the moment and thinking, hang on, that's tripled in 12 months. Tripled in price in 12 months. We used to be able to get the I think they're 10-litre bottles from Farm Foods, and there used to be two of them for 12 quid. They're now 2 for 30. And the last time we went in, they were more than £30. I believe that they was 35 for the two. So when you're looking at prices like that, and you're just kind of thinking, hang on a second, 12 months, really? Really? So having a piece of equipment that can actually save you money and help you process some of the raw ingredients that you may be growing and turn those into something that you could use and be very useful to you and your family is actually an investment that is so worth making. So we're down to our last two, and these two things are very similar, although they have very, very different applications, what they are used for. Now the first one, as you can see here, is a distiller. Now it's also a 20-litre distiller. And you may sit there and go, what do you need that for? Well, let me just enlighten you a little bit, okay? Due to the rules that the government have put down to do with dumping of raw sewage in our lakes and waterways here, and you know, that's where a lot of our water comes from, let's be honest, okay? Yes, it comes through a water treatment plant, but honestly, they're not up to task. People in the south are drinking yellow water, or not, because they're just too scared to use it. Other places, they're having issues with chlorine. I myself have been through Queensland droughts in Australia when they were so bad we were only allowed 10 litres of water per person in the household, and that had to cover drinking, cooking, bathing, all of it. And I had 16 children in the house, most of them under 10, okay? Several of them under 5. Yeah, not all my kids, obviously, but they were foster children, plus my children, plus the adults that lived in the house, you know, so it was a house full, and we had to be very, very careful on what we did. The problem was that because the reservoir where we were living was run down to literally mud, and I mean literally mud, because there was mud coming out of our taps at one point. So yeah, we had to actually go and get water from somewhere else. We had to buy in water, and we had to do it on a daily basis because it was rationed. Because we had such a big household was the only reason that we were allowed to get as much as we could, and we were very, very careful how we did it. However, when the reservoir started to fill back up, oh, son, sorry about this. Let me sit back a bit. Okay, so when it actually started raining and the reservoir started to fill back up, one of the things they did was dumped a bunch of chemicals in it straight away. Unfortunately, those chemicals, they overdid, and they came through our taps. Some of our children ended up with burns because they got into the shower, turned the taps on, and ended up having to be taken to A&E to be treated for chemical burns. Not only on the skin, but in their eyes, all kinds of stuff. So the water was undrinkable, completely undrinkable. So you need to find your water from somewhere else at that point, okay? If you're in a kind of situation like that, and you want to make sure that it is clean as it can possibly be. Sure, you can filter it. You can make filters, that's fine, not a problem. But distilling it is that extra step, you know. I mean, you can filter it, you can make all these filters and do the charcoal filter thing and all of that kind of stuff, gravity fed filters, all of these kinds of things, that's great. But if you distill the water, it will kill everything else that has not. And that's what you want. And yes, it takes time. It does. But I would rather wait 6 to 8 hours for 20 litres of water to be distilled and know that it's safe to drink than end up getting something a lot worse, taking a lot more time to get better at a time when I may not be able to afford to go through that. The other thing with the distiller is that you can create your own alcohol. Yes, I am aware I shouldn't be doing that, blah 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 blah, but if you need medical alcohol for any reason, then you're going to need a distiller. So if you're distilling water, you can, you're going to have it going for probably several days to distill enough water to make sure that you and yours have enough fresh water for about a week. Then you've got a couple of days spare where you can actually start making some medical level alcohol to make sure that everything is sterilized properly. Okay? And that's what you can do with a distiller. And you can do it where you can buy the starter kits at homebrew shops. You can do it that way. Or you can get a few books and you can read up on it and you can start learning how to make it from scratch yourself from things like, potato juice. I'm sure none of us know what comes from potatoes. So that's why I want the 20 litre distiller. I want to make sure that we will have absolutely the freshest, cleanest water possible to drink. But I also want to make sure that we have, and that distilled water as well can then be used in soap making. It can be used in putting some away in sterilized bottles, etc., for medical use and that kind of thing. But you also want to, then you've got it for drinking and it's safe, but then you've got the use for making the medical grade alcohol. Don't let anyone drink it, not even in fun. It's just, no, it's silliness. Anywho, it's another skill, it's another piece of equipment. It's a very good piece of equipment, and it's something that is pretty high on my list of priorities, to be honest, because without clean drinking water, you're kind of shot for a lot of things, So, there we go. And we're on to the last one. How long ago now, guys, and I'll be done, I promise. Okay, but this last one is really, really good. Now, as you guys know, I am a herbalist. Okay, I'm a qualified herbalist. I have been for a lot of years. I've been practicing herbalism for longer, and I do know what I'm kind of know a little bit about what I'm doing. Yeah, just a little bit. Okay, one of the pieces of equipment that I've wanted for a long time is an Alembic distiller. What does this have to do with food? Well, to be honest, an Alembic distiller is how we make distilled essential oils. Okay? That's how you make distilled essential oils. Now, some essential oils are able to be used within cooking. For the most part, though, I would put this in a medical setting rather than a food setting, but it is possible to use certain essential oils in food. Okay, which is why it's the last one on the list. Okay, because there is that crossover. The same with the other distiller, there is that crossover, and you'll probably find it in another week's video when it comes down to the medical stuff. So this is, as I said, it's an Alembic distiller, and it is used for making essential oils, and that is the best explanation I can give you guys. Honestly, essential oils can be incredibly useful, whether they're either keeping, like I said, this really does have major crossovers. So they're very useful in soap making, they're very useful if you're making your own cleaning products, they're very useful in cleaning in general on their own. You know, you can put essential oils into a tea if you don't have the fresh ingredients there on hand. You can put a couple of drops in a tea and they will do a very similar job. If you're using it for medical reasons, say for example you've got a major cold, you've got no fresh sage in the house, but you've got sage essential oil, you can put 2 drops in a cup and call it good, and that will help. Same with thyme, same with rosemary, that kind of thing. So having them there that you can use them for to go in the food cupboard as well as in the medical cupboard, because a lot of herbal medicine is very crossovery. Okay, you know, that's Hippocrates for you. You know, let food be your medicine, medicine be your food. Yeah, okay, so that's where we have the crossover. So an Alembic distiller is a piece of equipment that is the last one on my list today. Okay, I'm going to hold you up for 2 minutes more and then I'll let you go. So, you know, just stick around for a second. But Blue, all of this stuff is so expensive. Yeah, never said it wasn't. It does say wish list. You know, some of it I'll pick up, probably some of it I won't get. You know, unless someone is really generous, but I don't even have a Amazon wish list for stuff like that, and I would never ask you guys for it. So, you know, this is all stuff though is very, very useful, whether it's you're using it at home where you live right now, whether that's an urban setting or a country setting, or, you know, a completely rural off-grid setting. I'd say that the more off-grid you are, the more useful these things are. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, I am a person that prefers to use hand tools. I prefer to use things that don't require electric. It's partly because I'm cheap. Sorry, I'm frugal. But I also find using hand equipment a lot more zen. I don't feel as freaked out by it. I don't get the electrical vibration off it, you know. I find using a lot of electrical equipment very difficult. And I much prefer doing things in a more traditional, slow way. Which is why I have the kinds of equipment that I have on there. The other thing that I'm very aware of, and I very rarely talk about on my channel, is bigger issues that can occur. Now, most of what I have put on here is long-term usage stuff. Some of it I've touched on a subject that I don't normally talk about very much on my channel, which is long-term prepping. And, you know, big situations. SHTF, situations. I don't talk about that very much on my channel because I am more interested in the short-term, smaller issues and skill bases to help people to deal with those short-term issues. So things like cost of living crisis, being able to cook and make things from scratch, being able to do a lot of those things. However, behind all that, there is always the situations that can occur that are bigger than 3 months of having to pay a huge amount of bills, like we are in at the moment. We have been paying off a lot of bills that, you know, we didn't know existed and have come as rather a shock to us, and we've had to be paying those off. But also we are very aware of what's going on in the world right now, and we want to be able to take care of ourselves and take care of those we love at a time where we may need to, you know. We are also aware that should things continue the way that they are, there will probably be issues with electric, issues with gas. So being able to use hand equipment is very important. Being able to cook without using gas and electric is very important. Being able to clean water is also very important. You know, if you're just in it to save money, hand equipment for doing certain tasks is going to be a lot cheaper than running the electric all day for your dehydrator, which I know I have, but I also have air drying nets as well, stackable ones. I also have baskets for doing dehydrating as well. So that can be all done, and it's normally done during the summer months. There is some dehydrating that can be done outside over the winter months, but you know, it's different. It's a different way of doing it. But the whole point is to make sure that we have a decent skill-based set and the equipment to be able to use that skill-based set in a time of any kind of crisis. All of these things will be very useful in all of those situations. Whether, like I said, it's a short-term thing like 3 months of having to pay probably 80% of your wages off in bills, or you know, or more than that, because I know some people are doing it tough enough that they're not even making not even meeting their basic needs at the moment. So being able to use a lot of these things is going to be very important. Now moving forward, we're going to have another 7 weeks of different wish lists to do with different sections of life, and you know, they're just ideas. They're my personal wish list, you know. Again, I probably won't get everything on it, let's be honest. Some of the things are definitely dream items, not gonna lie to you, you know, and no one is promised tomorrow, so I may not get any of it. Let's be fair, we don't know what's going to happen. So just being prepared with what we have right here, right now, is enough. But having the other thoughts in the back of your mind so that you can actually expand those experiences and expand those skill sets is also incredibly important as well. Okay, so I will see you guys again next week, where we will be looking at textile wish lists. Okay, textile craft wish list. All right, and I will see you again then. Have a really awesome rest of your day, guys. Bye. Haha, tricked you. You thought we were done, didn't you? But no, I have one very last one. Now, this is a very, very special one. and is something that is used on a daily basis across the Middle East, across Eastern Europe, all across there on a daily and several times a day basis in a lot of cases. It is the samovar. Now, for those of you who don't know what a samovar is a way of brewing tea without electric, without gas. It's done with coals. So they get coals from a wood fire and they pop it down the middle, that has where they heat the water in the middle part in there, and you get the teapot from the top and you fill that up with whatever kind of tea you want, and you get the water out with the little tap, and then you pop it on the top to keep it warm. Now, the teapots could be any kind of material except for plastic, and I've seen them as glass, I've seen them as brass, I've seen them as steel, I've seen them as aluminium, I've seen clay ones or stone ones, ceramic ones, all of that kind of thing. But it's a great little piece of kit. And during the Second World War, there were refugees who, of nothing else that they had on them, had their samovar. That's how important they were to them, because it didn't matter where they were. They could at least have a hot drink, a hot cup of tea, a hot coffee, whatever you want, because it just heats up your water. Whether you use the teapot or not is entirely up to you, but it means that you can have a hot drink no matter where you are, because all you need are some hot coals to get it going. There is a little tube down the middle, and you pop the coals down that little tube, and around that is the water piece, and that heats up to get your water for your tea. And it's just brilliant. It's absolutely incredible. It is a bit of an investment piece, this one, though, and it is very, very special. But I've wanted one ever since I heard the word samovar. I'm not going to lie. When I was very young, my parents used to go to and from between Australia and England on cruise ships. They were mostly Russian ships, and on them we got to see things like samovars in use, because they had them in the restaurants at afternoon tea. That's what the afternoon tea was placed on the table, and everyone got their cup of tea from that. It was amazing, and honestly, that's a piece of kit that I'm not sure I want to be without, to be fair, because it doesn't matter what situation you're in, okay? Having a hot drink, if you've got nothing else, even if you've had to forage for wild roses or wild fruit or wild berries or leaves or something to make a tea out of, at least you've got that. At least you've got that. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean it puts any pressure on your little gas canisters. It doesn't mean that you put any pressure on having to find electric to plug your kettle in. You've got this, because no matter what, you're always going to be able to make fire. Let's be honest. Okay? So, yeah, my little Easter egg for you guys is the samovar. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you again very, very soon. Bye.